Hi guys, Rama here. So glad you guys can join me. Today I want to just take a few minutes to talk about, because we were talking about inner child work this week and I introduced my EMP framework yesterday. What I wanted to take a second and really talk about is how your inner child, when you're operating from that wound, and until you heal it, you will always be operating from that wound. That will come up over and over and over again. And the healing process is a continual one. It's pretty much when you go through without your life. The one thing that happens is that over time you gain more self-awareness around it. So you will be able to catch yourself when you do start to operate from the wound and be able to stop and take the time to go in and see, is it an emotional component, is it a mental thing, is it my actions, is it a physical manifestation of it, and then go in, make the adjustments, and then move on. But what happens is that what you can do is, while this is mostly maintenance, up until that point, a lot of your inner child really operates, which is the bulk of it, is an emotional component. Going back to the EMP framework, a lot of it is your inner child wounds really set up your base foundation energetic frequency, which is from your emotions. Now, when you operate from that, one very common thing that comes up, and we've all done it, is when it's projection. And projection is pretty much, you assume you know what somebody else is saying you're doing, and that assumption usually comes from a place of your own insecurity. So say, for example, this happens at work all the time, because one of the places that I work at is requires a lot of contact with the public. And whenever, as somebody who's in customer service, if you don't react to someone the way that they want you to react to them, they will assume that you're pissed off, you're mad at them, you're snooty, X, Y, or Z. Keep going on the list, depending on wherever they're coming from. Where it could be none of those things, and I could be having a bad day. I don't feel the need to be overly whatever. My personal personality could be that I don't react the way that they would like me to react. But what happens is that when you project your own wounds onto somebody else, you don't hear what they have to say. You don't see them clearly either. So whatever they do, whether they do it for you or against you, depending on how you want to frame that, you don't take that in clearly. I'm going to use an example because when your inner child wound, a lot of it is based around your parents. So I'm going to use a really simple example that I'm sure a lot of people have gone through or experienced in their own lives, and hopefully this will make a little bit more sense. So one of the things that my mom, for example, likes to do is she likes to buy me things. Now, as a kid, I hated it when I went back home from college or whatever, that she would buy me something, because what would happen is that she would buy a whole bunch of stuff for me. I'd take it back with me back to school. And then inevitably, during the course of our conversations over the next 3 to 4 weeks, possibly even longer, I'd hear she would be venting to me about how high her credit card bill was. In my head, because my inner child wound was still raw and fresh, and I grew up with a very severe codependency with my mother, I took that on as, instead of seeing it clearly as my mother doesn't know how to manage her money, and thus she's always had credit card issues, it's not about me. What I heard was that because I bought you all of those things, I now have all these issues with my credit cards. I have all this credit card debt. Now, that's my own projection. Once I healed my wound, now when I visit my mom and she still buys me things, I understand that that's her way of showing me that she loves me. And I don't take it personally when she goes on and complains about her credit card bills afterwards, because I know that I am not like what she bought for me was a very, very small portion of what her credit card bill is about. Second, her money management is her responsibility. As the parent in the relationship, she should be in a position to say no, or, stop her compulsion to buy me things. But because she still operates from her inner child wound, she does this in an attempt to connect with me and show me that she loves me. Okay, so hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. When I was operating from my wound, I would feel so guilty for having to take these things, but when I told her not to buy it, she would get angry, because to her that was like, oh, she doesn't know how to show me love in any other way. So when I said that you don't need to buy me anything, or I don't need anything, which is true, I never really did. My parents have always provided well for me, but this was always a constant theme. But if I told her not to buy me something, she would feel rejected. But if she bought me stuff and then she would complain about the bill later on, I would feel as if I was responsible for the bill, when I was just, what she bought for me, I didn't ask her for anything. She bought it out of her own will. So this is all of her responsibility that I took on. And that's an example of projection. If you work in customer service, or you have a job with coworkers, or you've been in a relationship and you had a fight, and then the person goes on and on about how, oh, you think that I'm useless, or I don't do this, or I'm not smart enough, or that's projection. When you start putting words into somebody else's mouth, or you start assuming what they're saying is about you or your insecurity because somehow they can find it, or they know what your insecurity is, that is called projection. And what happens is that when you're projecting, you don't hear anyone, you can't communicate with anyone, you can't properly connect with anyone. And projection happens a lot, especially when you're dating. We're out here trying to find, our soulmate, our lobster, and we can't, because we keep going around operating from this broken inner child who wants to go in and have people make it feel better, when it's no one's job to make you feel better. And that's why it's like the EMP framework that I use is so important, because instead of trying to control your thoughts around it so hard, and then trying to act differently that seems discordant with your own energy, because you still have this inner child that needs to be heard, that needs to be healed. That emotional connection to your inner child is so important, so that you don't project it onto other people. And if it does come up in the course of communicating with somebody else, you're able to separate yourself from it. And then later on, once you're home alone or whatever, you can go in and talk to your inner child and have it understand that this was not about you. Whatever you thought was about you, it was not about you. All right. So with that said, I do want to make sure that everybody knows I am offering the Confident and Clear Communication call right now. I'm calling it the Triple C call. But I like alliteration, all right, guys? But really, what we tackle, it's a free 30-minute call. There's no strings attached to it. And pretty much what we do is we tackle one key area in your life where communication is blocking you from making some progress. This could be around work. This could be, whoever you're in a relationship with, if you're dating, whoever you're dating, it could be with your parents, it could be anything, any communication area, and we go in and we tackle it so that you're communicating in a confident manner, because you know that you're communicating from your heart. But most importantly, you're clear, you're not projecting, and you aren't taking on crap that isn't yours. All right, so if you want to book that call, remember it's free, it's 30 minutes. You can book using the link in my bio. Otherwise, I will talk to you all soon. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.